ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. So we will start from the 33rd sloka. It's almost the questions of Narad Muni have been answered by Brahma, and now we will be starting the this one after answering. So Brahma is adding some more things. So that's the set of slokas here we are going to see. Iti the brahmitam tata yatedam anuprachasi nanyad bhagavata kinchid bhavyam sadasadatmakam. My dear son, whatever you have you inquired from me, I have thus explained unto you, and you must know for certain that whatever there is, either as cause or effect, both in material and spiritual worlds, is dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So now like the questions of Narad Muni were about kindly explain me about the creation and who's behind this creation and things like that and all. So how the living entities, this material nature and everything is organized and things like that. So Brahmaji explained everything nicely, and then now he's telling that I have answered all of your questions, and then whatever is the cause and effect both in material and spiritual world, everything is dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is, he is giving a summary answer for the whole thing. So the details may be different, but then the everything is dependent on the Supreme Lord. Okay, purport. The complete cosmic situation, both in the material and in the spiritual manifestations of the energies of the Lord, is working and moving first as the cause and then as the effect. So, everything is the cause is the Supreme Lord, and the effect, what happens. So that is also like done by the energy of the Lord, and it's in the Lord is both the cause and the effect. That's the this one that is mentioned. And if we see, Brahmaji seems to be the cause of it, the cause of the creation, and then all the planetary systems, what has been created, that seems to be the effect of the whole creation. But then we see that the cause, ultimate cause, is Supreme Lord. He is giving the inspiration to Brahmaji to create, and then what has been created is all these material planets and all. Essentially speaking, all this is Krishna's energy. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. So all these Panchabhutas are Krishna's energy. And these energies have been used by Brahma to make it. So even the effect, in one sense, it is Krishna and Krishna's energies, that is there. So in that way, like whatever may be the different names and different forms in which the creation is made, the essential cause and effect of everything that is there is the Supreme Lord, right? So here we see the complete cosmic situation, both in the material and in the spiritual manifestations of energies of the Lord, is working and moving first as the cause and then as the effect. But the original cause is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Effects of the original cause become the causes of other effects, and thus everything, either permanent or temporary, is working as the cause and effect. So now, for example, like Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, he created he is the cause of Brahma, and Brahma is the effect, and Brahma becomes the cause and he creates further. and whatever he creates, that becomes the cause, and that creates further effects. So in this way, the cause and effect is going on, and the ultimate cause of everything is the Supreme Lord. And because the Lord is the primeval cause of all persons and all energies, he is called the cause of all causes, Sarva Karana Karanam, as confirmed in Brahma Samhita as well as in Bhagavad Gita. So that is Brahma Samhita 5.1 affirms Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govindaha Sarva Karana Karanam. And in Bhagavad Gita 10.8 it is said, Aham sarvasya pabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitah. So the original primeval cause is Vigraha, the personal, and the impersonal spiritual effulgence Brahma Jyoti is also an effect of the Supreme Brahman, Brahmanohi Pratishtaham, that is Lord Krishna. So the original cause of everything, the primeval cause of everything is, it is mentioned, no? Ishvara Paramakrishna Sachidananda Vigraha. So Prabhupada is actually highlighting this particular aspect. So that means the cause, the original cause of all the causes is a Vigraha, means it's a person. No, it is not an impersonal light or something like that. And then what about the Brahma Jyoti? No, Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, Brahmanohi Pratishtaham. So that means, Krishna is the one who's the source of the Brahma Jyoti also. So in this way, like, both the cause and effects, like ultimate causes, the Supreme Lord Krishna. Right? Text 34. न भारती में मेंगम मृषोपलक्ष्यते न वै क्वचिन्मे मनसो मृषा गतिः न मे ऋषिखानि पतन्त सत्पथे यन्मे हृदौत्कण्ठ व्यथा धृतो हरिः. Okay. O Narada, because I have caught hold of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari with great zeal, whatever I say has never proved to have been false, nor is the progress of my mind ever deterred, nor are my senses ever degraded by temporary attachment to matter. Is a very big thing. Brahmaji is telling that, just Brahmaji is telling to Narada that I have the lotus feet of the Lord always in my heart, or I have caught hold of the lotus feet of the Lord. So I'm holding the lotus feet of the Lord in this way, and because of that, whatever I speak has never come false, and then my mind has never gone to any material things, and my senses are not degraded to attachment to the matter. So it's a very, very exalted position. What Brahma is in. Right, so this is the advancement. So whenever we talk about advancement, or whenever we talk about some real progress and things like that, so this is what is real progress actually. So gradually our senses are in the material world, our senses are tuned for sense gratification. But then if our senses are naturally thinking about or naturally orienting ourselves towards devotional service to the Lord, then that's a great advancement that is done. And here Brahmaji is telling that his position is like that. He is very, very advanced in that way. Purport. Lord Brahma is the original speaker of Vedic wisdom to Narada, and Narada is the distributor of transcendental knowledge all over the world through his various disciples like Vyasadeva and others. The followers of Vedic wisdom accept the statements of Brahmaji as gospel truth, and transcendental knowledge is thus being distributed all over the world by the process of disciplic succession from time immemorial, since the beginning of the creation. Lord Brahma is the perfect liberated being, liberated living being within the material world, and any sincere student of transcendental knowledge must accept the words and statements of Brahmaji as infallible. The Vedic knowledge is infallible because it comes down directly from the Supreme Lord unto the heart of Brahma, and since he is the most perfect living being, Brahmaji is always correct to the letter. Means his words never goes wrong. And this is because Lord Brahma is a great devotee of Lord who has earnestly accepted the lotus feet of the Lord as supreme truth. In Brahma Samhita, which is compiled by Brahmaji, he repeats the aphorism, Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I am a worshipper of original personality of Godhead Govinda, the primeval Lord. So whatever he says, whatever he thinks, whatever he does, normally in his mood are to be accepted as truth because of his direct and very intimate connection with Govinda, the primeval Lord. Now, we will see in the actually in the third canto it comes. So, in the beginning of creation, Brahma and Vishnu had a very very intimate connection. So even they shook hands with each other, and that's how great the Brahma is. Like, he has very very tight and intimate connection with the Supreme Lord. And then, in fact, in Brahma Samhita, we can understand he's describing the opulence of Goloka Vrindavan. That means he's able to think of Goloka Vrindavan, he's able to visualize Goloka Vrindavan. That means really very amazing. Not everyone will be able to understand the topmost planetary system called Goloka Vrindavan. People can like think about Vaikuntha, like great devotees can think about Vaikuntha, and Goloka Vrindavan is even more higher than that, which is the residence of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So here also it is mentioned about Govinda. Govinda is also like Krishna's name. It's like really very tight and very intimate relationship. Lord Brahma has with the Supreme Lord, and Brahmaji is our Sampradaya Acharya. We come in the Brahma Sampradaya, and then like we can. It is very nice to hear about the glories of Brahmaji, like who's our like past Acharya, right? So, okay. Sri Govinda, who pleasingly accepts loving transcendental service of his devotees, gives all protection to the words and actions of his devotees. The Lord declares in Bhagavad Gita, Kaunteya Pratijanehi, O son of Kunti, please declare it. The Lord asks Arjuna to declare. And why? Because sometimes the declaration of Govinda himself may seem contradictory to mundane creatures, but the mundaners will never find any contradiction in the words of the Lord's devotees. So the devotees are especially protected by the Lord so that they may remain infallible. Therefore, the process of devotional service always begins in the service of the devotee who appears in disciplic succession. So, this is the way of starting devotional service. So whenever we want to start devotional service, it starts with the service to a great devotee of the Lord, who comes in the disciplic succession. Right? And also, we see this aspect of so Kaunteya Pratichanehi Name Bhaktya Pranashati. So in this aspect, we see that here it's mentioned that Lord's promise sometimes may seem to be contradictory. He may people sometimes say Krishna took a vow that he will not take a weapon. So, but then he took a weapon in the Kurukshetra war. So, but technically speaking, we can argue that it is already time, or it is chariot wheel cannot be considered a weapon, and so many arguments can be given. But common people cannot understand this particular aspect. So that is why here it's very difficult to understand the Lord's following his words. But then Lord makes sure that devotees' words never goes false. This is one of the reason devotees should never feel anything bad towards anybody. If they feel something bad towards somebody, it will come true, because the devotees' words and devotees' thoughts, Lord will strive to make it happen. So that is why it is very important that devotees should not have bad feelings towards anyone. So if they have bad feelings towards anyone, it's also kind of a harm that we are doing, because the Lord actually strives to fulfill the desires of the devotee, right? And therefore, the process of devotional service always begins in the service of devotee who appears in disciplic succession. The devotees are always liberated, but that does not mean that they are impersonal. The Lord is a the Lord is a person eternally, and the devotee of the Lord is also a person eternally. Because the devotee has his sense organs even at the liberated stage, he is therefore a person always. And because the devotee's service is accepted by the Lord in full reciprocation, the Lord is also a person in his complete spiritual embodiment. The devotee's senses, being engaged in the service of the Lord, never go astray under the attraction of false material enjoyment. The plans of devotee never goes in vain, and all this is due to the faithful attachment of the devotee for the service of the Lord. This is the standard of perfection and liberation. Anyone beginning from Brahmaji down to the human being is at once put on the path of liberation simply by his attachment in great earnestness for the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord. The Lord affirms in the Bhagavad Gita 14:26, Mam chayobhya vicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samiti thaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Anyone, therefore, who is earnestly serious in his heart and soul, also being in intimate touch with the personality of Godhead in the relationship of transcendental loving service, will always be infallible in words and actions. No, this is very nice. This one. So they will anybody who's a nice devotee of the Lord, they will be infallible in terms of their words and actions. That means their words will never go false, and their actions also will never go faulty. No, that's the position of a great devotee. The reason is that the Supreme Lord is absolute truth, and anything earnestly dovetailed with the absolute truth attains the same transcendental quality. On the other hand, any amount of mental speculation on the strength of material science and knowledge without any bona fide touch with the absolute truth is sure to be a mundane untruth and failure, simply due to not being in touch with absolute truth. Now, this is a very nice argument that is given. No, the Supreme Lord is absolute truth. Anything in connection with Him attains that quality. It also becomes truth. And if something is not connected with the Supreme Lord, though it may appear as truthful, no, it is just temporary, because no, there should be a connection with the Supreme Lord for it to become solidly truthful. And then such godless, unfaithful words and actions, however materially enriched, are never to be trusted. That is the purport of this important verse. A grain of devotion is more valuable than tons of faithlessness. Amazing statement, no, Prabhupada makes. A grain of devotion is more valuable than tons of faithlessness. Right? So this world is full of people who doesn't have no proper faith in the Supreme Lord. No, but if somebody has a little bit of devotion to the Lord, saying that, okay, Krishna is ultimate, and then whatever he says in Bhagavad Gita is ultimate, and I just want to study them and apply them in my life. So that small faith, if somebody has, so that is more valuable than so many different faithless theories and faithless statements or faithless actions. It is a little bit of faith and devotion of something, if we do, that has lot of value, actually, lot of value. Text 35. Soham samanaya Soham samam naya mayastapomaya prajapatinam abhivandita patihi astaya yogam nipunam samahitas tam nadhyagacham yata atma sambhava. Okay. Although I am known as great Brahma, perfect in the disciplic succession of Vedic wisdom, and although I have undergone all austerities and I am an expert in mystic powers and self-realization, and although I am recognized as such by the great forefathers of the living entities who offer me respectful obeisances, still I cannot understand Him, the Lord, the very source of my birth. Okay, so this is an amazing statement by Lord Brahma. He's just mentioning his qualification, what all his qualifications are. He is perfect in the disciplic succession, or he is perfect in the Vedic wisdom. That means he knows the Vedas, and he is the original Brahmana within the creation, and he disseminates the Vedic knowledge further. And then, although he has undergone so many austerities and things like that, and he's very, very expert in mystic powers and all these good qualities and all great people of this world offers obeisances to Brahma, because he is the eldermost in the creation inside the this universe. But still, with all this qualification, he cannot understand the Supreme Lord, who is the source of Lord Brahma's birth. Right? So a very, very nice statement Brahma is making. Purport: Brahma, the greatest of all living creatures within the universe, is admitting his failure to know the Supreme Lord despite his vast learning in Vedic wisdom, despite his austerities, penance, mystic powers, and self-realization, and despite being worshipped by great Prajapatis, the forefathers of the living entities. So these qualifications are not sufficient to know the Supreme Lord. Brahmaji could understand the Lord to little extent only when he was trying to serve him by eagerness of his heart. Hriday, uh, Hridav, Hridav Vyata. Kantyavata. So, which is the devotional service mood. So, Hridaya and Utkanta, no, and then Utkantya and Vata. So, like this is like very, very great eagerness, no, from the heart, like that. So, which is the devotional service mood. Therefore, the Lord can be known only by the sincere mood of eagerness for service and not by any amount of material qualification as scientists or speculative philosophers or by attainment of mystic powers. This fact is clearly corroborated in Bhagavad Gita 18:54-55. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na sochati na kankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato nyatva vishate tad anantaram. Only self-realization by attainment of the above high qualifications of Vedic wisdom, austerity, etc., can help one on the path of devotional service. But failing in devotional service, one remains still imperfect because even in that position of self-realization, one cannot factually know the Supreme Lord. By self-realization, one is qualified to become a devotee, and the devotee by service mood, bhaktya only, can gradually know the personality of Godhead. One should not, however, misunderstand the import of Vishate, enters into, as referring to merging into the existence of the Supreme. Even in material existence, one is merged in the existence of the Lord. No materialist can disentangle self from matter, for the self is merged with the external energy of the Lord. Now, it's a very nice this one. Now, if we have to see that we are soul, and then if we want to understand that we are soul, it's so difficult because it is completely smudged. The material body and the soul is completely smudged. We don't see any difference between material body and the soul. No, it becomes so smudged and so much merged into each other that it is very difficult to find the difference between body and soul. In the same way, here Prabhupada is mentioning, in the liberated stage, the Lord and the living entity are so like one in their attitude and in their intimacy and things like that. So it's very difficult to find difference between them, like that. So in that way, like it is this aspect of entering into the Lord, that makes sense with those kind of words. Okay. So as no layman can separate butter from milk, no one can extricate the merged self from matter by acquiring some material qualification. This Vishate, by devotion, bhaktya, means to be able to participate in the association of the Lord in person. Bhakti or devotional service to the Lord means to become free from material entanglement and then to enter into the kingdom of God, becoming one like Him. Losing one's individuality is not the aim of Bhakti Yoga or of the devotees of the Lord. There are 5 types of liberation, and one of which is called Sayujya Mukti, or being merged into the existence of the body of the Lord. The other forms of liberation maintain the individuality of the particle soul and involve being always engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord. So here we see that there are 5 kinds of mukti are there. First is the Sayujya. Sayujya means to merge in the existence of the Lord, or to go to the Brahma Jyoti and to merge in his existence. So there is no service here because the person who's aspiring for Sayujya Mukti, he wants to finish his identity and then he just wants to be a particle on the Brahma Jyoti. But then there are other 4 muktis are there. So which is called Salokya. Salokya means to remain in the same planet as the Lord. And then Sarishti means to have same opulence as the Lord. And then Sarupya means to have the same bodily features of the Lord. And then Samipya, that means to be very, very close, to be in very close association of the Lord. So in this way, there are various kinds of liberation is there. But then the devotees, they don't take this Sayujya Mukti. Sayujya Mukti means that is merging in the existence of the Lord. Why do the devotees don't take the Sayujya Mukti? Because no, there is no service opportunity there. So you will be there as a part of Lord's body, and no, you will be as no, it's kind of your identity and the Lord's identity is merged in that this kind of mukti. This is generally happens in the Brahma Jyoti, no, or like somebody may just be a particle on the personality of the Lord. So in that way, Sayujya Mukti devotees don't aspire for. So they aspire to render service to the Lord. So no, devotees generally they take the other four muktis if it is offered. That is, Salokya, Sarishti, Sarupya, and Samipya. No, these are the other forms of mukti. So that is, the devotee takes because he doesn't aspire for, but if he gets it, then no, he takes one of these four kinds of mukti. That means to go back to the spiritual world means he has to be there in one of these four forms. In that way, he takes those things. But then his primary thing is service of the Lord, right? So there is one nice sloka is there in this regard. It says that Samipya, Sarupya, Sarishti, Salokya, Aikatvam api uta diyamanam na grananti vinamat sevanam jana. So that is the Lord is telling that even if I give them liberation, my devotees don't take. Why do they don't take? So because in case if after liberation, if my service, now I am rendering service to the Lord, and if after liberation, if I am not getting opportunity to render service to the Lord, then what's the point? No, I don't want liberation. So then the Lord has to say, no. After liberation, you get back to the Vaikuntha. There also I'll give you service. Then the devotee says, okay, fine. No, if there is service, then I'll come. No, otherwise, I don't want simply to go to the Vaikuntha and hang around over there and things like that. I want some engagement over there. No, that's how the devotee is always feeling. He wants to do some devotional service to the Lord all the time, right? So that is why Prabhupada is also focusing on this word Vishate. Vishate means to enter into, and it is not entering into the existence of the Lord. It is going into the Vaikuntha Loka and rendering service to the Lord. That's the aspect here it's mentioned. So the word Vishate used in this verse of the Bhagavad Gita is thus meant for the devotees who are not at all anxious for any kind of liberation. The devotees are simply satisfied simply in being engaged in the service of the Lord, regardless of the situation. Lord Brahma is the first living being who directly learned the Vedic wisdom from the Lord. Tene Brahma Hridayadi Kavaye. Therefore, who can be more learned Vedantist than Lord Brahma? He admits that in spite of his perfect knowledge in the Vedas, he was unable to know the glories of the Lord. Since no one can be more than Lord Brahma, how can a so-called Vedantist be perfectly cognizant of the absolute truth? The so-called Vedantist therefore cannot enter into the existence of the Lord without being trained in the matter of Bhakti Vedanta or Vedanta plus Bhakti. This is a very important point. The so-called Vedantist, why this word Prabhupada is using? Because Vedantist means that impersonalists generally have this title of Vedantist, and they think that they are the ones who understand the Vedanta properly. So, but then they don't have idea of the Lord's form. They don't have idea of service to the Supreme Lord. They just simply want to claim themselves as Vedantists, because they somehow or other figure out the way for impersonal liberation or the Sayujya Mukti, which the devotees don't take. That's how this Vedantist name comes, because these impersonalists, they extensively comment and speak on Vedanta, Vedanta Sutras. So because of that, they are called as a Vedantist. And these so-called Vedantists cannot enter into the existence of the Lord without being trained in the matter of Bhakti Vedanta or Vedanta plus Bhakti. So just simply Vedanta is not sufficient. One must have Bhakti. That is when he will be able to understand the Lord. And the Lord clearly confirms that in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati. That means you can understand me only with Bhakti, not by your study or austerity or anything else. No, that is not possible. So like that, the Lord says. Okay, Vedanta means self-realization, and Bhakti means realization of the personality of Godhead to some extent, right? So Vedanta means difference between body and soul. You will understand that you are spirit soul. Bhakti means to understand about the Lord a little bit. know what does he want, what kind of person he is, and what does he like, and things like that. And then we try to do things according to his desire. So that is called bhakti. So self-realization means, no, it can be called as even without God in the picture. If I move towards the platform of knowledge, that is, I understand I am different from this body. So then, no, that is called this one. What is it? Self-realization. But then that is not necessarily bhakti. Bhakti means after coming to the platform of understanding, I am soul and I am not the body. I have to engage in the service of the Lord. And to engage in the service of the Lord, I need to know what does the Lord want and what does the Lord like. So then when I start understanding those aspects, then I become a bhakta. No? Otherwise, it is not a devotee of the Lord. Okay, no one can know the personality of Godhead in full, but at least to a certain extent, one can know the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, by self-surrender and a devotional attitude, and by nothing else. So here we see that we can only understand a little bit about the Lord, because if we can understand everything about the Lord, that means we would have been greater than the Lord. So Lord is very, very great, and we can only understand a little bit about the Lord. It's just like if you go to a reservoir of water and know how much of water you can drink. You can only drink a little bit of water, and that little bit of water quenches your thirst. And we can say the reservoir of water has quenched your thirst, but you cannot say that no, you have drunk all the water of reservoir. That is not possible. So in the same way, Krishna is unlimited, and little bit if we understand about him, we'll become completely nourished and satisfied. No, that is how much we can do, and that is sufficient enough for us, right? So we cannot understand the Lord in full, in complete. It is very difficult because the Lord is unlimited, and we are limited. Okay, and it is possible to attain this bhakti only by self-surrender and devotional attitude. We have to surrender unto the Lord, and then we have to have this attitude. My Lord, what do you want? What does you like? I just simply, I'm eager to render that only. I just simply want to do that only. In the Brahma Samhita, also it is said, Vedeshu Durlabham. Vedeshu Durlabham. Or simply by the study of Vedanta, one can hardly find out the existence of the personality of Godhead. But the Lord is Adurlabham, Atma Bhakta. So Vedeshu Durlabham, but then Adurlabham Atma Bhakta. So if we want to study the Vedas and understand the Lord, it is very, very difficult, Durlabham. But then if we want to become an Atma Bhakta, that means if we become a devotee of the Lord, so then it becomes Adurlabham, then it becomes easy to understand the Lord. So very easily available to his devotees. Srila Vyasadeva therefore was not satisfied simply with compiling the Vedanta Sutras, but over and above this, by the advice of his spiritual master Narada, he compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam in order to understand the real import of Vedanta. Like Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, is the absolute medium by which to understand the absolute truth. So this is why is Bhagavatam and Vedanta is compared, because Bhagavatam is the natural commentary on Vedanta Sutras, and because of which they are of equal platform. They are of it is Srimad Bhagavatam is an explanation or the first commentary on Vedanta Sutra, so by the author himself. So in that way, Srimad Bhagavatam, we can say an elaboration of Vedanta Sutra. So one who doesn't know Srimad Bhagavatam, he doesn't know Vedanta Sutra also. So that way. So text 36. Natosmi aham tacharanam samiyusham bhavachitam swastanan anayam sumangalam yohi atma maya vibhavam sma paryagad yatana baswantam atapare kutah. Therefore, it is best for me to surrender unto his feet, which alone can deliver one from the miseries of repeated birth and death. Such surrender is all auspicious and allows one to the previous and perceive all happiness. Even the sky cannot establish the limit of its own expansion. So what can others do when the Lord himself is unable to estimate his own limits? So, a very nice point. So the Lord is so unlimited, even he cannot estimate his own limits. Then what to speak of we small living entities? We can never estimate the full glories of the Lord. But then, as we were discussing in the reservoir of water example, even if little bit of water also, if I drink, from the reservoir of water, that quenches my thirst and I'm completely nourished. In the same way, Lord may be unlimited, and just by a little bit of devotional service and just by absorbing ourselves in devotional mood, so definitely, we will become completely nourished and happy, right? So, purport: Lord Brahma, the greatest of all learned living beings, the greatest sanctifier, the greatest observer of the austere life, and the greatest self-realized mystic, advises us as the supreme spiritual master of all living beings that one should simply surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord in order to achieve all success, even up to the limit of being liberated from the miseries of material life and being endowed with all auspicious spiritual existence. Lord Brahma is known as the Pitamaha, or the father's father. A young man consults his experienced father about discharging his duties. So the father is naturally a good advisor, but Lord Brahma is the father of all fathers. He is the father of Manu, who is the father of mankind of all over the universal planets. Therefore, the men of this insignificant planet should kindly accept the instructions of Brahmaji, and would do well to surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord, rather than try to estimate the length and breadth of the Lord's potencies. His potencies are immeasurable as confirmed in Vedas. Parasha Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate Swabhaviki Jnana Bala Kriyacha, Svetasvatara Upanishad 6.8. He is the greatest of all, and all others, even the greatest of all living beings, namely Brahmaji, admits that the best thing for us is to surrender unto him. Right? So in this way, the Lord is really very powerful, and we saw the glories of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is itself so powerful, and we can imagine Lord is how many times more powerful the Lord would be. He's really very powerful. And when we see a very powerful person, the natural feeling is that to surrender unto him, right? And then the Supreme Lord is very, very lovable also in that sense. In that sense, anyone, no one would be there who, after understanding the Lord, would say no, I will not love the Supreme Lord. He will. Anyone, any sane man would get attracted to the personality of the Supreme Lord, right? Okay. Therefore, only those persons with a very poor fund of knowledge claim that they themselves are lords of all that they survey. And what can they say? They cannot survey even the length and breadth of the small sky in one small universe. The so-called material scientists say that he would need to live 40,000 years to reach the highest planet of the universe. So this is how much it is necessary, being carried by a Sputnik. This is also utopian because no one can be expected to live 40,000 years. Besides, when the space pilot returned from his travel, none of his friends would be present to receive him back as the greatest astronaut. As he becomes fashionable for modern bewildered scientific men, these people, all the astronauts, they may be very fashionable and they may be praised amongst the modern people, but then actually they are not worthy of this prize. So they cannot possibly, it's all theory only, they cannot possibly reach the summit of the material sky. It is not possible for them. Okay, so one scientific man who had no belief in God was very much enthusiastic in making plans for his material existence, and therefore opened a hospital to save the living. But after opening the hospital, he himself died within 6 months. So one should not spoil his human life, which is obtained after many changes of changes of bodies in 84 lakh species of life, simply for the concocted material happiness of life through increasing artificial needs in the name of advancement of economic development and scientific knowledge, right? So we should not, simply for name and fame, we should not do something material things. No, we should try to see that by our doing material things, working somewhere or taking care of family and things like that. So by our doing material things, we should see that it is all connected to Krishna, and we should do it as devotional service. We should not just do it just like any other ritual or any other activity. We should do every single action in our throughout the day should be molded in such a way that it reminds us of Krishna and it is pure devotional service that is performed. So in that way, like, we can see that that will be the perfection of our human form of life. So rather, one should simply surrender unto the feet of the Lord to make a solution to all miseries of life. That is the instruction of Lord Krishna directly in Bhagavad Gita. And that is the instruction of Srimad Bhagavatam by Brahmaji, the supreme father of all living beings. Okay. Anyone denying this surrendering process, as recommended both in Bhagavad Gita and in Srimad Bhagavatam, and for that matter in all authorized scriptures, will be forced to surrender unto the laws of material nature. The living entity, by his constitutional position, is not independent. He must surrender either unto the Lord or unto the material nature. Material nature is also independent of the Lord, since the Lord himself has claimed material nature as Mama Maya, or my energy. And as me bhinna prakriti rashtada, so prakriti me bhinna, no bhinna prakriti rashtada. So my separated energy in 8 divisions, he is mentioning, that is earth, water, fire, ether. So bhumir apo analo vayo kam mano buddhi me bhinna prakritir ashtada. So these 8 things, which is there: earth, water, fire, air, ether, panchabhuta, then mind, intelligence, and false ego. Now all of them put together is the this one, material nature. And then the Lord says, my separated energy, like may, he uses may, maya, all those things. So like mama and things like that. So these words indicate that the Lord is having the personal connection with the material nature is having personal connection with the Lord. It is energy of the Lord, right? So therefore, material nature is also controlled by the Lord, as he has claimed in Bhagavad Gita, Maya dakshena prakritihi suyate sacharacharam. Maya means my, and then adhyakshena means under my supervision or under my direction, only the material nature is working. So it's mentioned here, under my direction only is material nature working, and thus are all things moving. Everything that is, Sa chara acharam, like Sa chara charam. This is very important. Chara means like that which moves, and achara means that which doesn't move. So that means either moving or non-moving. These are the broad classification of things that we can give in this world. What is there in this world? So moving and non-moving entities, right? So even in accounts also, sometimes we make like movable assets and immovable assets. So that's the same thing, chara, not coming from the Vedic, this one only. And Lord is saying, no, both moving and non-moving, everything is working under Maya Adyaksha, under my direction. And the living entities, being superior energy to matter, have choice and discrimination either to surrender unto the Lord or to surrender unto the material nature. By surrendering unto the Lord, one is happy and liberated, but by surrendering unto material nature, the living entity suffers. So the end of all suffering means surrendering unto the Lord, because the surrendering process itself is chidam, liberation from material miseries. Bhava means the material miseries or material world, a place where repeated birth and death take place, bhava. And chiddam means like chidyante sarvakilmisha. It means cutting the knot, cutting the material existence. That's the idea of liberation from all material miseries. And then swasti ayanam, perception of all happiness, and sumangalam, the source of everything auspicious. All these things manifest for a person. His bhavachiddam, that is his material attachment to this world is cut, and then the perception of happiness, he really starts feeling happy within the heart. And then sumangala, it is very, very, it is the source of all auspiciousness. So therefore, liberty, happiness, and all good fortune can be attained only by surrendering unto the Lord, because he is full liberty, full happiness, and full auspiciousness. Such liberation and happiness are also unlimited, and they have been compared to the sky, although such liberation and happiness are infinitely greater than the sky. in our present position, we can simply understand the magnitude of greatness when it is compared to the sky. We fail to measure the sky, but the happiness and liberty obtained in association with the Lord is far greater than the sky. That spiritual happiness is so great that it cannot be measured, even by the Lord Himself, not to speak of others. No, this is like really amazing aspect. No, here is mentioned that no, the sky is very, very vast. No, and it is very difficult to measure the sky. And then here it is mentioned that the Lord is more merciful. No, and Lord is like no really very amazing, and the spiritual bliss that is attained by practice of Krishna consciousness is really very amazing. That there is no end to it, and it is beyond the material happiness that we can ever think of in any different form of material happiness we can ever think of, right? So it is really, really no anandam buddhi vardhanam. No, every step it increases in the spiritual consciousness. The bliss, no, in every step increases. It is said in the scriptures, Brahma Saukyam Tva Anantam, spiritual happiness is unlimited. No, here it is said that even the Lord cannot measure such happiness. This does not mean that the Lord cannot measure it and is therefore imperfect in that sense. The actual position is that Lord can measure it, but the happiness in the Lord is also identical with the Lord on account of absolute knowledge. So the happiness derived from the Lord may be measured by the Lord, but the happiness increases again and the Lord measures it again, and then again the happiness increases more and more, and the Lord measures it more and more. As such, there is eternally a competition between increment and measurement, so much so that the competition is never stopped but goes on unlimitedly ad infinitum. That means like no just indicating a very, very long period of time, ad infinitum. Spiritual happiness is anandam buddhi vardhanam, or ocean of happiness, which increases. The material ocean is stagnant, but the spiritual ocean is dynamic. In Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, 4th chapter, Kaviraj Goswami has very nicely described this dynamic increment of the ocean of spiritual happiness in the transcendental person of Srimati Radharani, the pleasure potency of Lord Krishna. No? So this spiritual potency is fully surcharged in the personality of Srimati Radharani, right? So, and she is like the ultimate perfection of Sat Chit and Ananda. So she is so blissful, in her position that she attracts Krishna. That's the speciality of Radharani. And here we can see that this the topmost level of attachment to Krishna only Srimati Radharani can have, and all others are assistants, and all further like we are there. So we want to become the assistants of the Supreme Lord or divine couple. So we cannot directly get into the service of the Lord. And in one lecture I was hearing Prabhupada was mentioning that aspiring to become like Nanda and Yashoda, or become father and mother of Krishna, wherein already some devotees are serving in that capacity. So then it is not a very good idea. So then he may just get a birth in the material. Sorry, that's not a very good idea actually. That is not to be done. So here we see that this Prabhupada actually mentions that that is also some kind of a mayavad, that to to occupy that kind of position like Nanda, Yashoda, or the gopis of Vrindavan and things like that. So they are all fixed. We cannot become like them. We can only become the servants of them. That is our this one. That's the maximum that we can attain to. So I just stop here because I have another meeting shortly coming up. And thank you very much for joining and taking part in the reading of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we will continue again tomorrow. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.